Hello, friends. We are here today to talk about the last episode of True Detective Season 1. It's been a journey. lots to talk about, so we'll be spoiling the entire series and the last episode. So if you haven't seen it, don't spoil yourself. Unless you're one of those weirdos. Yeah. But Chris, would you give us a quick introduction? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
So, my name is Chris Mohan. I sometimes make YouTube videos, sometimes appear on Steve's channel, just like I'm doing at the moment. And in general, I like to talk about films and books and TV series and generally what I find interesting. And while this was my first time watching this definitely falls into that realm of this is a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. So episode 8. So what were your thoughts on the episode? I have thoughts too, but what did you think as a first time watcher?
So this might not surprise you.
Okay.
But I felt a bit let down's the wrong word because the things that it tried to execute well and set up right, it absolutely achieved. But I think we discussed this a little last week, it felt like they threw away a lot of the what could have been more interesting story beats, in terms of ways they could do it. For it to end up in a single manhunt felt a bit okay, like I get it, because they do want to concentrate on the Marty Cole relationship. Like that's what the whole story's about. That's what the whole series is about. Even subsequently, when I watched some interviews with the writer about it afterwards, he says, "Look, I just kind of wanted to make a TV series about two fellas talking in a car," and I thought, well, how can I do that? Well, there has to be a murder mystery or something in there, and that's sort of what it actually feels like. So it makes sense in that way. So all that stuff is great. The big bad resolution of it was just kind of a bit, yeah, okay, it was good. The filmmaking aspect of it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Production, set design, film, and all that kind of stuff. Extraordinary, but I just think the actual resolution of it felt a bit one note compared to where the rest of it felt so layered and complex. So that was my kind of feeling.
I agree. I think, and I always am on this like this high watching the first 6 episodes, and then he started to kind of get some turbulence. I think kind of you feel a little bit unfulfilled because it feels like this big story, like this big conspiracy, like all these moving parts, and there's families and politicians and churches and just like this big story, and then it just goes down to this little thing,
Yeah,
at
it's
the
the
very
guy
end.
that drives the tractor.
Yeah.
Drives not even a tractor. Even if he driven something as big as a tractor, that'd be cool. But he just is one of those ride along mowers. Is
Yeah,
that it?
I think that the big bad was a disappointment. I think that to have all, because he seems so unrefined and just like this sledgehammer type of character that he doesn't seem to have the finesse or the thought or the fourth, to plan all this stuff out. It just seems like he just wouldn't fit the how elaborate all these murders have been and over the years.
I agree. Especially, I think I talked about this way earlier on in the episodes. Like Cole fit the profile of the kind of intelligence needed for the kind of, like you say, the intricate planning, the kind of level of detail, even the fact that he's staying hidden for so long. I mean, they sort of gloss over the fact that Tuttle and all was cleared insofar as, well, you can't get everybody, you can't get the whole story, but it did not even allude to the fact that actually they did get away with it. It's just kind of left a bit unsatisfactory. Maybe that's a purpose. Maybe that's one of the things you say. You take your wins where you get them. I think it said that a few weeks ago. Cole had been doing, but yeah, he just didn't seem smart enough to have done all this or even be that threatening.
Yeah. Yeah. He I think especially at the end when they come to this like foot chase, and they try to add in some like, I don't know about supernatural or like this spiritual, like his voice and it seems like this very grounded and gritty, and you're kind of in the muck with these guys, and then at the end it turns into like flips a switch, and then he becomes like this almost like supernatural character, like this villain.
Yeah, he's almost like Andre the Giant, but without the physique. You know, if he had been that size, again, would have made more sense. Like the kind of he gets shot 4 or 5 times and just runs through it and throws a tomahawk and does all that stuff. It doesn't seem like that kind of character. If they had even played up, like that's the same when he's walking through and doing the chase with him through that through like the underground tunnels kind of thing. If they had even played up the drugs angle. The
Mhm.
smell of it kind of started to make Cole a bit wheezy, and he had a gas mask on, like the Dumble to do, like way before he was walking around. That could have given some meaning to why he was so superhuman or kind of had a physical edge on them. But he took two of them out. Like I don't know. He is a big guy. Like I don't want to take away from it, but it just felt like a bit saying a bit unsatisfying for the possibilities and the kind of how deep seated the whole thing seemed to be.
Yeah, and I know at the end that they added, like you said, they added that line in, like, they're still out there. I think Cole
Hmm.
says that they're still out there. Marty says, "Well, we got our guy." Like but from having the shootout with Ledoux in episode 5, and they had all those things happen, and then they felt like they had to come back and finish it. And it seems like, okay, if you're going to come back and finish it, then it seems a little like it's still not quite yet done, right? Or are they handing it off to someone else because they do have all the evidence and the tape? So maybe they're handing it to someone else that can kind of take the baton from them.
Kind of do. See, I thought that in some way, but then there's that line that Cole has when he's talking about, when he get to the place and he goes, "No, this is the place. Like, there's no doubt about it. This is the place what happened." Which again leads it back to that just single guy thing of like, well, all the shit just went down here. This is where the Marie Fontenot murder took place. It's the stuff that's on the tape. This is everything that's happened. Which puts it too closely on him, especially when the past couple of episodes it was like, no, there was 3 or 4 guys all with masks on and he didn't care. His appearance was his mask. Uh, yeah, but aside from that, the rest of it I think is extraordinary.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the setup, even all the interspersed little pieces, like when Marty's asking the other detective, the younger detective, "Do you want to get the call?"
Mhm.
I thought that was a really fascinating scene in so far as how corrupt is this area, how corrupt is this police force still? Do you want the call? And there's real doubt there as
Yeah.
to whether actually he's going to say actually it doesn't matter or do or don't.
The one scene that gets me every time is when Marty's in the hospital and they ask him if he's okay, and he starts to cry. Just
Yeah,
just reflecting on all the things he's done, and his family's still there. They come back and see him, and after the experience, and after almost dying, and that's a great little scene there.
and again connects Marty with humanity and growth of the male persona. I think a lot of ways, I think some of us take our time.
Yeah.
Some of us it doesn't come as quickly as others, or it needs something really bad to happen before they become actually, what the hell have I been doing, or who have I been?
Mhm.
Um, but it did strike me, and I think they sort of veer very heavily away from this at one point. But that end scene in the hospital could almost have been played out like a alternative death scene, in that the two of them are already dead,
Hmm.
and that actually this is their sort of happy ending, especially for Marty with the kids coming in and the wife. It was almost unnatural and almost too good to be true. Even the breaking down of him crying also could be him sort of atoning, something that he wouldn't normally do in real life, but as part
Mhm.
of his own narrative. So if it had ended just that point, I think that'd have been a really nice kind of question to leave open there for people to interpret how they wanted. If you want the happy ending, you got it. But if you want something a bit more mysterious, you also got that as well.
It's interesting you say that, because at the very end, when they're outside and Cole is smoking a cigarette, it's very empty. It feels like there's no one else. I
Mhm.
think there's one person by the door,
That's right.
but there's no one else around. Now that you say that, it kind of strikes me that I don't. I never thought of that before.
It definitely could be. It's almost like I say when Maggie walks in with the two kids and they're holding the hand, and it's kind of shot very dreamlike insofar as there's very
Yeah.
close up of the hand holding, and like I say, I sort of I like those bits where you can kind of have your own ending if you want.
Hmm.
You can interpret it how you want. You can see how you want the end of it, so that everybody can sort of be happy. Then, like we've talked about this about other shows without mentioning them, but ending series is very hard. It's
Yeah.
very very difficult, and almost the best way to do it is to create the opportunity for multiple interpretations or something of it. Something like The Sopranos did that quite well. You know,
Hmm.
it's quite easy to see it multiple ways. People can be very definitely no, 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 that's not what happened. That was what this happened here, etc. And that kind of thing. But I did. I was initially confused as to why we even needed a coda sequence
Hmm.
after the events of what happened. Like the two of them are pretty badly hurt. Like I thought when Marty takes a tomahawk to the chest,
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking, oh God, a couple of days in hospital, he'll be all right. You're
I think
thinking that's
I think it was on his left side too, or no, it was on his right side.
it
In the
was
middle.
somewhere around here anyway. Yes, I think you're right. I think you're right. It is around there. I was like, that's jeez. Poor Marty. What a way to go. Especially because it seemed like it took a while for the police and the ambulance to get there.
Yeah. Well, I think they were pretty remote, and
Yeah.
that's why it kind of confused me when he asked him, "Do you want the call?" Because if you're going to go out there and put yourself in that position, you're all by yourself. And
Mhm.
if you do make the call, it's going to be a good hour at least. I mean, I'm guessing before anyone else shows up. So you better better be sure that you're not walking into a really bad situation. Otherwise, you're screwed.
You had sort of made the call before you went, so that they were kind of if that was ever going to be a possibility, and they knew it, and everybody, it was like an open secret, like they're kind of going, "No, we don't believe it's there." You'd still have one ear to the ground to say, a helicopter in the sky or something to that effect might be worthwhile. Um, but they made it out, as far as we can tell. They
Yeah.
made it out to live another day and sort of whatever this new existence they have for them. Like, I don't think I think Rust is sort of set back on the trail of the wandering man in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Given that this is fixed.
I kind of got the impression they're going to work together. At least that's kind of the implication that they're going to like be at least be friends. So
Hmm.
maybe he'll find some kind of family, or they'll find some kind of bond and find comfort in each other in their friendship. But yeah, it was other than other than the big bad and that whole thing, and the sister that I I think they I think they went for something to be like shocking, or they wanted to have like this. Oh, that's really gross, kind of. But I don't think it needed the sister thing.
No, the sister. Like, it was striking me like, what kind of woman ended up marrying this man, and I'd have to say, my good Catholic upbringing forbade my brain to go there. But I knew the father was dead and emaciated on the bed. Like I think that was very clear from the very first scene when he's standing with him, that he was in that state. But yeah, some of the stuff with the sex scenes, if you want them, between the two of them were interesting because they sort of fit in with the narrative of that kind of almost biblical fervor for violence and all of that kind of stuff that goes along. But oh man, some of it was. I think it was just supposed to gross you out. Like the setting of the
Yeah,
house, all that kind of stuff was supposed to gross you out.
but I think it's you would think that someone who does these crimes would be somebody very meticulous and
Yes,
clean and
I agree.
tidy and very particular. But
Well, they had to dispose of bodies of young kids in and then tie it back to the sheriff and clean up all of like that's very meticulously planned. Even if his dad was doing it for him, he ended up tied to bed. I don't know if it totally makes sense. I have to say, in terms of the crime and who committed it and who eventually was a fall person for it, or that they were enabled in some way. And I have to say, when I think of my favorite ever mystery crime shows, and I think about the things that I love about a lot of those series, it's where police work is deglamorized. You know,
Mhm.
where somebody just works the case and they go through down a lot of rabbit holes and they eventually stumble on the evidence and it eventually gets to the resolution. And you go, right, that's how police work works. Not this kind of mad jump that seemed to happen a couple of times in this series, which makes me think, the murder mystery was very much the afterthought that came along here.
Mm.
This was very much about this two-handed buddy cop relationship, in some way, and they tacked everything else on around it. All the drama kind of was layered around that, and for that, I'm fine with it because it succeeds so fantastically in the relationship stuff and building that
Yeah.
relationship and making it believable and almost having them save each other, even though they're kind of both broken and weird in some ways.
Yeah, they are both broken and weird. Um, yeah, it's I think the like you said, I think the murder mystery is almost like a secondary storyline to the
Hmm.
characters.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's not to say there's not some absolutely brilliant scenes. Obviously, I made a lot of notes on it, etc., as we're going through, but uh, so like the main character, the William Childress, I think is his name.
Mm.
There we go. The bit where it shows them in the house and he's mimicking what's in the TV with the different accents, etc. I was trying to think, even when I was watching it, I was going, what are they really doing here?
Mm.
Because he even goes on that jingoistic Irish accent at one point when he's got a different kind of different personalities from switching between personalities.
Mm. Yeah, I wonder if the people who were mostly involved with these crimes had died off, and he was just kind of who was left. Is
Who was
that
left? That's definitely a possibility. Yeah.
and that's why he
Uh,
was been gone for so long. And I think he had a couple, but nothing like he used to. So maybe that's part of it.
yeah, and the fact that that school system had died off because they showed him obviously in recent times painting the the school that he's
Mhm.
currently working at in the parish, etc., and the kids coming up and I mean the very eerie scenes between them just coming up and staring at him and then sort of leering back. Oh
Yeah.
god, that was chilling. Um, yeah, but there was that, and then they obviously had the best scene in the thing is where they have the old police captain, and they basically, well, Cole alludes to the fact, I paid up a sniper, so if you don't mess about, um, if you mess about, he's paid up the contract to kill you. And you have, as a viewer and the thing, and he kind of goes, yeah, 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 and then the shots start ringing out. I
Yeah.
did that as I've written down my favorite line in the entire series. I strike you as more of a talker than a doer, then Steve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go. I love that. That was absolutely terrific.
Yeah, that was a good one. There's lots of great lines in this one, in this
Yeah.
series.
Lots of singers. I actually think you could have acted the sniper guy. That guy doesn't speak anything at all.
It
He holds a gun, then he sits in a bar and is silent. I mean, that's the kind of acting job I want.
I want that job. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
I
Sounds
don't
good.
think he says a single word in the whole thing.
No, I don't think so either. He has a look.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the beard. You probably need longer hair, Steve, but the beard will do.
Yeah. I need to grow it out and get a drinking problem, and then there was no was there Jameson? I think maybe there was.
Maybe just a little bit in that scene between the two of them in the bar.
Yeah.
I think there probably was.
Yeah.
But at this point, we just see Jameson. It doesn't even have to be there. We can feel it off camera.
Yeah, it's a off-screen character.
Yeah, indeed, we know it's exactly there.
And Marty did get a moment to shine with the house because he remembered the house because we had talked about that before about
Mm.
how he's kind of I don't want to say riding his coattails, but he you kind of get the feeling like Cole didn't take him very seriously as a detective. But Marty does recall the house and the color and kind of puts it together with the leaf man thing.
Which I think plays into that idea that as the series progresses, Marty grows in Cole's eyes. You know,
Mm.
in lots of ways, other than being a shitty man, as he kind of pointed out to him later. You know, but in terms of being a detective or a colleague or anything like that, he definitely comes to the point like I need you. You know, you see things that I don't see, or you have connections that I don't see, all that kind of stuff. And you know, there's a change definitely from Russ being arrogant, self confidence to being, you know, a bit more humble, if nothing else.
Yeah, they do both seem to change a lot in their obviously, but I wonder if Woody Harrelson has like a stomach because he seemed to be pretty trim, and now they want to portray him as like he's a little older and he's not as active, so he has a little belly. But I wonder if that was a real belly
I
or not.
believe he can do it. That might have been a fun part of the role to go, look, you need to be trim with this part, but then you can just go let yourself go to hell. And he's like, right, I can do that part. That's great. That's the fun part. To get me the carbs and the beer in.
Yeah,
Or maybe he was just sucking it in for the first 3 episodes.
maybe. Yeah, maybe he was. He seemed
Yeah.
well, or maybe they gave him some help with that, or kind of
Yeah.
had a certain shirt on or something. But
Yeah, that's true. Of course, there's that great scene, obviously, between Marty and Cole when Marty's trying to quiz Cole out as to whether, you know, all those years back, whether he was holding back. I just
oh
thought
yeah,
how very male ego of you, you know, to kind of say. And the funny thing is, we as the viewer are going, I mean, yeah.
yeah, he was. He held back because I think he thought he had guilt over what had happened, so
Yeah,
he didn't.
exactly.
Yeah, I think because he has a lot of the pressure points, and I think he could have done something more, but
Well, he very much, you know, let him charge him, let him take him down, let him take the first swing, the last punch. And yeah, there's that self confidence of, well, we know
we
that
know.
actually
Yeah.
do, and deep down, Marty knows because that's why he's asking the question.
I think he said something that I think about, like, because of course that's what he thinks about is, "Did you hold back on me, all these years ago?" Not like, "Why did you sleep with my wife?" It's more like, "Did you hold back on me?" Yeah.
But it was something like some balls in a man to kind of leave yourself hanging out in that kind of physical confrontation. That's some serious cojones there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, so there was that, and then it just becomes this elongated like hunt scene around the house between the dog getting killed and the getting let in the house, the no phone, and then this kind of weird, like you say, pseudo weird, like voodoo kind of thing that they went on with his voice and him searching through all of the bits and then him coming out of the dark, which I think is most effective from a filmmaking point, like I said, rather than necessarily a storytelling point. I think some of the production design and set design of that house, while maybe not consistent with I think with the crimes, is really impressive to look at. Like they got
Mhm.
all the discarded dolls with no eyes and stuff, or the blankets and teddies of the kids and stuff. You just kind of
Yeah.
go, oh, if there's that many dolls, there was that many kids, and you know those little things that are just left in there to really eke at you.
Yeah. Sometimes those little details I think are worse than showing you because
Yeah.
your imagination runs wild, and that's worse than what they can show you sometimes.
Yeah. So, um, so I actually had written down that that it was almost like he was starring in the worst episode of American Pickers. If you've ever seen that,
Yeah.
that's very reminiscent of one of those houses.
Not the house you wanna stop at.
No, but I'm sure a lot of interesting stuff there. I mean, I'm sure the two American Pickers guys could have got a lot out of there, and
Oh, yeah, I could've gotten some good stuff. Yeah. I'll give you $25 for this corpse. Like,
yeah, yeah.
sold. Yeah.
Tied to a bed. You can take the bed for free.
Yeah. Bed comes with the corpse. Yeah.
Dear.
Yeah.
But was I found it hard to see. I actually stopped it and had a look, and we couldn't really make it. I couldn't work out whether the father's mouth had been wired shut.
It looked like it. It looked like he had been
Yeah,
sewed shut. Yeah.
yeah. So obviously, you know, this is not this. He didn't go peacefully into the night, kind of thing.
Mm.
Even though.
Was he killed or did he die naturally?
I would say that the wired shot is both to shut him up, but also stop him taking in food.
Mm.
So I'd written that he looks very emaciated, which you would be if you've been dead a long time, but probably starved or otherwise. And the fact that this location was also Carcosa.
Oh yeah.
He says, "Welcome to Carcosa" or something. Or, "This is Carcosa." Some of the nice ones that says, "Take the bride's path," which is basically go on the right hand side. I liked a lot of
Oh.
that stuff. Right hand side. I thought a lot of that stuff again very clever writing. But
Mm.
the production design of the trees, the children's clothes, etc., is just off the scale effective in terms of environmental storytelling. In fact,
Yeah.
not having to beat a confession out of him. Don't need to at that stage. You've got everything. All the evidence is laying around you as to what happened here. So
Would you have preferred that they would have taken him in, or that do you like it better they killed him?
I would have really liked it if they had a shown taken him out quickly to show him actually that he just preys on children. He's not actually a strong man. He's maybe weak in some ways. Now I know that would have been maybe not as exciting or anything, but I think actually showing that there's a reason that this man preyed on children and preyed and needed to kneeled would have been way more effective, I think, than coming in to question him or having a prolonged like Superman attack that as it was, taking a lot of I don't think that was really needed. But I also think that's probably a product of the impact of the show many years later.
Mhm.
If you think, well, it's 2004 or 5, whatever it was. I know it was a bit later than that, probably was it? Whenever this came out, but like a lot of shows have played with that ending and played with that character and that archetype a lot
Mm.
since then to kind of say, no, I think we would have done it this way. And I think it's very easy to criticize a show as old as this in that way because it kind of set the tone for a lot of things that came after it.
See, it was 2014.
14.
So yeah, what, 8 years ago.
8 years ago. There's a lot of, I would say, similar-ish types show that followed that. And even given the reputation of this series, I'm not so sure that the magic in this series wasn't just the casting in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, season 2 is very, very different. It's, um, it's not as I think I would have really liked if they had like 10 episodes in season 1 to
hmm
elaborate more on the kind of the family or, kind of like what happened because we're kind of
hmm
left to guess how he's the one left and whether he had killed them or they had died off and he was just who all that was left or maybe
right.
a some kind of explanation on how he ended up being the only one there with his sister because it seems like like it was this really wide net that the people with a lot of influence and power.
Or that maybe this was a family tradition that went back generations,
Mm,
and that he was a product of. Because if there was a lot, I mean, the implication is there's a lot of half brothers, half sisters that kind of came from this lineage, and the fact that he was the only one and how widespread it was just doesn't seem to fit. That it was just a singular, twisted individual. It feels more like this was deep rooted in that
yeah.
area. I was very disappointed not to see Clark Peters back. Like I was devastated, but I knew by about halfway through, I was like, "Oh, this isn't going to go this way. This isn't
Yeah,
happening."
I don't wanna tell you and ruin it because I was because I there was a few times when I thought they may bring him back,
Hmm.
but
Especially when they started investigating the parish and the woman,
mm,
that worked for him last time. I thought that there's got to be more of a fervor and more of a community feel to this, and I think that's ultimately why I was left dissatisfied is because there was the possibility to do a lot of that. Although I understand why they didn't, because
yeah.
it wanted to be still about a very small cast at the end with very few characters and hardly anybody involved.
I think part of the last scene where they talk about the black and there's there is light versus
hmm
dark. I think that kind of reflects on the fact that there's so much black and they're the light and they did their small piece, like they did their small portion of where there's and then start popping out, and it kind of like they're the good guys kind of thing. Like they did their part for
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was an interesting analogy. One, because it goes along with the books that we're reading at the moment,
Yeah.
between the words light and shadow, but also the fact that I was trying to read into that a little bit, but were they really saying that if it was the war of light against dark, dark should have won by this stage,
Mm,
or dark should have been prevailing, or the fact that, like as you say, they are the light, and the fact that they did catch the guy and take one more bad guy showed that they actually were winning. That these people could be held accountable, or that these people did reach an unsatisfying end, and they're alive and they're not, essentially.
yeah.
And going along with again, again, very heavy kind of explanation of Cole basically saying I shouldn't be here, and he
Mm,
says it a couple of times before he actually explains what he means. And I thought, there's a really another interesting analogy of death, because it's almost like he's saying his soul wasn't brave enough to go.
yeah.
Never mind the bravado of everything else he shows, but actually at the heart of it, he wanted to live, whereas for most of his life, he's just wanted to die.
Mm,
Because especially with the relationship with his daughter and all everything that happened, but that he was sort of wasn't brave enough for that he'd finally accepted life and therefore light at this
mm.
stage, that it's something to live for, which is kind of beautiful in its own right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because he says, I let go, I gave up, I let go, and he still came back. Like he still
Yeah.
woke up. So I kind of wonder if maybe he has more work to do, kind of thing. Like his part isn't done. Like, he has still
Yeah.
more things to do.
Which is kind of my thing. The show must go on in
Mm.
some ways, because, you know, it's amazing that didn't turn into another series of Marty and Cole doing a buddy couple. Although I think the drama of that relationship is spent.
Yeah, I think it ran its course. Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen them uneven, easily stepping into each other's lives and kind of pressing on the push points. He was there and responsible for the breakdown of his marriage, and then get put back together at the end when needs must. Broken tail light, no.
Yeah. 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 Their relationship at the end was kind of like this peace. It seems like a big chain, like very peaceful and cordial and small talk.
Mhm. It's almost like just like classic Hollywood thing of we need a romance at the end.
Yeah.
The
A
lovers have got
bromance.
to get together at the end, and in this case, it's a bromance, because it does create a satisfaction for the viewer to kind of say, see, these two, we respect them for their flaws, we respect them for their differences, but together they make a pretty good pair.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting finale of that. Well, it seems very besides the big bad, it seems like there's not a ton.
Yes,
It's kind of light.
it's light on events that happen, but I think as a coda to what the series actually is, which I actually have to say, I'm really surprised that there's so much love, because I would have thought these last two episodes would have made it quite divisive, between
Hmm.
people of basically saying, "Oh, the end doesn't really work." But I think it's a testament to good character writing, that you kind of the bromance is enough in some ways.
Yeah. I
Love
think
will out.
yeah. I think the first 6 episodes are just so good that
Yeah, I would agree with that.
it's a small, you know, I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like I say to some of the authors that we get to speak to when they worry about don't do homeless. Maybe people will not like my second book or my third book. And as I often say, if somebody has read your first book and liked it enough to read the second book, they're going to make excuses. It doesn't matter whether it's as good as the first book or often for authors, especially, they do get better, but it doesn't matter. That's just somebody's invested in the characters in the series, that as long as they get more of those characters within that world, that's really all they're looking for. The
Yeah.
quality of the story you'd hope would be good, but people will forgive an awful lot as long as you give them more of that world and those characters that you've got. So I think the parallels with this are quite strong, especially in something that is, I would say, very celebrated in the history of television.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I think that's a great point about once you get attached to the world and you come back, then if you're gonna make another trip, then you're probably gonna like it.
Yeah, exactly. Probably gonna like it, and you know, you had the um, you had the shots even at the end of all the locations have been linked. You know, between the Childress house, then the Ledoux farm, then the bayou itself. You know, the church. All of those kind of locations kind of brought together, just to kind of show that we had the two main characters, but the third character was really the location and the setting and that world that you had to play
Hmm.
in.
It is almost like a character, isn't it? The location.
Hmm. I definitely felt that when they were driving around or going to a new place, that was what you were getting out of it,
Mhm.
was this sense of building another layer, another investigation of the world that they had in.
Hmm. Yeah, it is like another character.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it
What
was
else do you have in your
interesting.
notes?
Not a great deal, actually, other than just very narrative about what was happening and a couple of other little lines like smelling the flowers and
Oh yeah.
oh the absolutely dreamy shot of the Bear Orchard. As they're driving along and the trees that are stripped basically look like they're burnt out, but
Mhm.
they're stripped of all foliage and thing. And I went, oh man, that's a location that when somebody scouted it, or maybe it's probably very famous in and around that area, must have went, right, we've got to get that in. It's a bit like I think I've talked about before in Game of Thrones. If you're going to shoot Game of Thrones here, the Dark Edges as a location is you're including that in that show because it's such a unique, visually stimulating kind of location that you've got to have that in. But um, yeah, that's that's about it. So a pretty great series, I have to say. Very much enjoyed your companionship
Yeah.
on walking me
It's
through
been
it.
fun. It's been fun hearing your thoughts, and it's almost like I was watching it again because I get to hear what you thought the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like you did such a good job of never steering me either off or on.
Yeah.
I have to say, if anybody's going to watch a TV show, would recommend Steve.
Yeah, I'm worried about I was trying to not give you any indication, but try to not steer you, just kind of repeat what's in the episode and not kind of
Yeah,
so glad I didn't spoil anything for you.
it was very enjoyable and a very enjoyable watch. Even looking forward to these kind of chats about it every week to kind of
Mm,
distill because I do. I think again we've talked about this in previous weeks, but the idea that a lot of people binge stuff and how
mm,
enjoyable it is to watch something, digest it, then talk about it and digest that conversation again before you go into the next one.
yeah.
You certainly don't get the kind of impetus that you get from binge watching something, but it doesn't half make you think about it and digest it and enjoy it. I
Yeah.
think savor it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of binging. I think it's a little bit too much. Like you don't, like you said, you don't have a chance to reflect and to
Yeah,
really appreciate what they're doing because you just like one mouth, one bite and it's done instead of
that's right.
nibbling on it. So
Yeah, you just it's very easy to forget when you binge about where characters started and ended. Like it would be like if you binge this in one go, I don't think you'd get the appreciation of the journey that's it. I would say especially Marty's character journey. I think is actually much more interesting to me than Cole's. I think Cole's is sort of a bit unbelievable in some ways, but given how dark and broken that he was, but Marty has the more natural character arc of being, recognizably an asshole, but actually coming full circle on it.
I really like that they didn't reunite Maggie and um, Marty.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have him kind of come full circle without really changing. It's kind of interesting, and I really like that aspect of it where you kind of go right, but he actually is still sort of the same person at the end of the day, except he sort of cried.
Yeah, I think he hasn't changed at all. I think it's almost like he is who he is. Like it's just
Hmm.
he's that person. He's not going to change.
Yeah, and the audience sort of are very accepting of these two, even though they're horribly flawed and they're horribly, problems with everything that's going on. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was a good.
Oh, it was, yeah. Supremely enjoyed it. Another one to add to the list of great TV series that I've ever seen. I don't think it doesn't make my hallowed top 6 or 7. I have a 6 or 7 series that sit by themselves.
What are they?
So what are they? They are uh The Wire.
Okay.
You've seen, yes?
Oh, I love it. It was so
Yeah,
good.
it's
Yeah.
terrific. I think the Wire's terrific. The West Wing,
Haven't seen it.
right? Terrific. Friday Night Lights.
Haven't seen it. Great soundtrack though.
Oh yeah, well, explosions in the sky, just amazing.
Yeah.
I recommend this. I think of all of these, Friday Night Lights is the one that people have seen least. Buffy.
No, I haven't seen that either.
And Veronica Mars.
Oh, that's a nice one. Haven't seen that
Uh,
either.
I love Veronica Mars. I have Mad Men up there. I think Mad Men's terrific. Another one full of people that are extremely unlikable.
Yes, very much.
And then my the other one's a guilty pleasure, which would be Stargate SG-1.
Oh well, I've seen bits and pieces of that one, but
I really like the Stargate movie. I like the fact that it's sort of believable sci-fi, which is sort of a thing, and I like how they took a very what could have been jingoistic premise and actually stretched it out into a really good broad sci-fi show, of which there aren't too many. And then I'll throw the Expanse in there as the 6 series Expanses as the other one that would sit in there as being really great sci-fi.
it's really good. Yeah,
It
Expense is really
is.
good. Yeah.
So there are lots of other great TV shows that I've seen, but those are my top of the tree ones.
Nice. I'm surprised Breaking Bad didn't make it into your.
Breaking Bad. If Breaking Bad had stopped that after series 4, I'd have been all in. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I just think it is such a perfect ending there of that open end for the character, and that it sort of conquers his major demons
Hmm.
on a personal level, and he could have went either way, and you could have left it open for the audience to kind of make their own mind up. I sort of a bit unsatisfied by the 5th series, mainly just because I felt it was unnecessary. I
Hmm.
didn't need to see the resolution of the Hank storyline. I didn't need to see a resolution of a lot of that. Felt, oh, I don't need that. That's okay. Breaking Bad's terrific, just absolutely terrific. Some of the run, the 3rd to 4th series is just out of this world. Great TV. Well, there's plenty more series. Like, there's no doubt. I to say I have 6 or 7 like really greats just goes to show that they are just elevated. Just for me, partly because when you see them, the time of life things that were going on in your life
Oh
during
yeah.
those kind of places as well that kind of change all that. So like stuff like Buffy is very much falls in that category. Veronica Mars falls in that category. Actually, great TV shows. The first 3 that I mentioned are another step up again, I think.
Yeah.
So The
Okay.
Wire, West Wing, and Friday Night Lights are amazing.
The Wire.
Oh, The Wire. I actually got my wife she committed to doing a watch with me. And we did get about 5 episodes into the first series, but not to the point where it becomes, and excuse the pun, like crack, where you just have to know what plays out. But another great example of characters. You just want to see
Mhm.
more of those characters in. I know that word is just Baltimore, but aside of Baltimore, or aside of American culture that I say I don't recognize, it is kind of reminiscent of some of Belfast, but in some ways. But that there's a playground to play in there, and the more it went on, and you wanted to see more of the fringe characters, I think kind of says a lot, a testament to
Mhm.
that world. See more of Bodhi, see more of Omar, and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh
Just
yeah.
what a show!
Yeah. Really great.
What a show!
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you for watching with me and coming to talk every week.
No, thank you for having me along every week and being my guide.
Yeah.
That was amazing, and maybe it'll be one of those things that maybe I'll do a rewatch a lot of years and be kind of like, oh, do you remember we did those chats about that as well?
Yeah.
I'll be able to
Yeah.
go back and go, God, what a fool I was! Look what I thought. Anyway,
Yeah. 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 I think that every time. So it's good. It's fun.
cool, awesome.
But if someone wants to connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
So you can find me on my own YouTube channel, but you'll find me more frequently on Steve's channel, probably. Uh, Especially with the upcoming A24 movies. I think I'm going to do quite a lot of those. I've started my preparation for those. They're good, yeah.
I just tried those.
Or you can find me on Twitter at 7o'clockshadow.
Awesome. Yeah. You could find me on pagechewing.com is the best place to catch me. With the changes to Twitter, I don't know. Who knows? We'll see.
I'm there for the moment.
Yeah.
Offering out sage advice and typos. That's me.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you again for watching with me, and it was a fun time.
It was too. We'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks, everyone. We'll see everyone soon.
Take care.